What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Crypto Junkie channel, where we talk about all things crypto. Today, what I want to talk about and answer is a very common question that you see floating around the interwebs, which is getting liquidated actually required to be a successful trader? Now, this is really a continuation of what you're seeing here on the left-hand side, which is the biggest lessons and takeaways from the New Market Wizards, which are essentially 2 books, but I think there's like 3 or 4 that were written by Jack Schwager. And they basically are a collection of interviews that occurred like pre-internet with greats like, in the fund manager one, I think he actually does talk to George Soros, but he talks to Stanley Druckenmiller, he talks to a couple of turtle traders, which were like super secretive in the 80s and even up to the 90s, which I don't even know if there's any of those that exist anymore. But essentially all the guys, like the big guys that you see in finance today that are running funds that manage billions, if not trillions of dollars, there's a big chance or a good chance that this guy interviewed them at some point. And what they talk about in this is stories. So I really love this series, and I come back to it often. So I'm in it again. Let me pull it up for you. I'm in it again, and this is the new one. So let me just show you this on camera really quick. Yep, New Market Wizards. It's the new one. I don't even know what time frame this is from, but I mean, this is early days of Stanley Druckenmiller, Randy McKay, Bill Lipschitz, which I love the conversation with him. There's all kinds of others though. Monroe, Trout, William Eckhard, Gil Blake. I mean, we got guys who are like systems traders, TA traders, fundamental guys. And one thing that's interesting that you'll find is there's not a single guy on here who is a purely fundamental trader or a purely like news-driven trader either. They use that as sentiment. They use that as like a piece of the equation. But when it comes down to like entering and exiting positions, they all pretty much were technical, right? And I think that's important to know. So anyways, just wanted to say that before we get started. So yeah, what chapter is that with Druckenmiller actually? What is that, part 5? Yeah, part 4. It's in Roman numerals, man. I don't know Roman numerals. Okay, so anyways, I was just re-listening to it today when I was at the gym, so some more stuff came up that I wanted to share with you. So this is a really common question, actually. And it's something that you see tossed around all the time in crypto. And what's interesting is you notice there is some parallels there. There is a lot of super successful crypto traders who made it now since 2017 or earlier that did get liquidated, and usually more than once. Most of these guys that are successful now as crypto traders, unfortunately, have been liquidated many times. Some 20, 30 times, right? On the low end, maybe just a couple times. So understand that market's a little bit different. I think there's a huge learning curve, but what people are constantly forgetting about, and it's very easy to discredit, is if you have been in crypto since 2017, like that is like lifetimes. And again, it's because this market moves and operates so differently than traditional or legacy markets that, 4 years in crypto markets feels like a decade. I mean, I'm telling you. And a lot of guys talk about this. A lot of people talk about this, is like how long each year actually feels, because there's so much required to keep an eye on, and there's so much cycle material that we actually go through. So much sentiment, so much, TA technical lessons. Like there's so many lessons to compound on a yearly basis that as long as you're paying attention and as long as you've got some self-awareness, you're making leaps and bounds. You're making quantum leaps and bounds in terms of your skill sets, right? So I think that's important to note. And I think you can learn faster in crypto than you can in any other market. You can make more money in crypto than any other market. I think if you get this opportunity right, then you'll absolutely smash it out of the park. Downside of that is a lot of people, unfortunately, will get it wrong and they will lose everything, and at a much faster rate than you would in legacy. And so anyways, okay, so to answer this question, is getting liquidated required to be a great trader? No. Does it coincidentally happen with a ton of top traders or investors, whatever you want to call them, hedge fund people? Yes, it does. Okay. Stanley Druckenmiller, who I use that as an example, is because like that guy today is like a ton of people's hero. That's a macroeconomist that, people like, he's written books. People really look up to this guy. But understand, early days, like before he got involved with George Soros's quantum fund and he went through a period where he was on his own, and he wasn't really making any money. He went through a phase where he was working for a bank and doing like reports and whatnot on investment positions, which is weird. I can't remember the position he had, and he got to a point where I think he lost like his last $10 or $20,000 by hedging the wrong way and getting the markets wrong, and so he ended up losing everything. Getting liquidated is what we call that, right? And so I use that story because two things. One, if a guy like that can make it, then anyone can make it. And then two is, why did he make it and a lot of people don't? Is because this goes back to what we talked about in that other video. Like all this wishy-washy woo-woo shit that you're trying to like push off and just pretend doesn't matter, like confidence, belief in yourself, tracking your trades, allowing successful trades to build, taking cool down periods or cooling off when you're not trading well, not letting your ego get a hold of you and completely allow you to destroy yourself because of imposter syndrome and things like that. Like all of that, like all these emotional cycles are happening simultaneously as you're winning big, losing big, right? So the other thing I wanted to get into is the fact that I think most traders that he talked to mentioned, I'll have to go back and double check this, but I want to say 80% or more all got liquidated at one point. So every single person that he talks to in these books, not every single one, but they're all top guys, right? All top traders. And I would say 8 out of 10 out of those guys got liquidated at least once, if not more. And so, yeah, we take that data and we see in the crypto space, like you look at your heroes on crypto on Twitter, then you'll notice that they too, a lot of those guys got liquidated. And a lot of those guys have been around for a while. So again, if you've made it since like 2017, chances are you probably got liquidated, especially on that 3K dump that we had in the one in November of 2018 wasn't bad, but the one in March of 2020 was bad. I know a lot of guys who lost big. Like we're talking big guys. Like this is before everyone got like over 100,000 followers. Back then, having 10 or 20,000 followers on Twitter was a huge deal in crypto because nobody cared about it then because it was a bear market. And so, anyways, I know a sizable amount of guys who got wiped out on that 3K dump move, right? Because of liquidation cascading that occurred from BitMEX. So, anyway, it's just really common. I don't think it's required, but like that pain does something to you. And then having that pain because you realize that you fucked up, and then going back and assessing and analyzing and making those changes and then applying that to the future and then having success, whereas before that is what ended you, then builds more confidence, right? And it's just like that overarching theme here is that first off, these people didn't give up. They didn't quit because they lost. That made them more hungry. That made them more addicted to these markets. That made them more wanted more and more hungry, right? And so I think that's a good thing overall to get that feeling, regardless of where it comes from. Hopefully, it's not coming from getting you liquidated, but who knows? And if you do get liquidated, I would just say that it's not the end of the world, and that you gotta find a way to learn from this. You can't just put that in a black box, and bury that down and never try and look at that again because it's just gonna follow you around everywhere, and you just keep. If you're going to do that and bury it deep down, then just quit trading because you're not going to make it. Yeah. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about with Stanley Druckenmiller is he went on to work with George Soros really closely, which I know he gets a really bad rap now because all the fucked up stuff he's doing. But back then he was trying to open up a lot of trade and commerce and growth in Eastern Europe. He had like 11 funds or something opened at one point early on to try to again get capitalism rolled out in these like socialistic environments over there, which I think is good. I think maybe he lost sight of things along the way. I don't know what changed, but we can't deny his trading prowess as well, right? And Stanley talks about this quite a bit. He talks about early on he would always be talking about like the confidence that Soros had, the confidence in his trade, confidence to cut a position. If he lost 3, 5, 10 in a row, didn't care because he was so confident and believed in himself and his skill set that he would get another winner. He would get it back in some sort of way, right? That was talked about quite a bit. And the other big thing that was brought up quite a bit is Stanley Druckenmiller put on $1 billion position, and he was like kind of proud about it, right? And he told Soros about it. And after he told him like why and all the pieces, Soros was actually mad at him because he didn't put on more. He was making fun of him essentially that he thought $1 billion position was big. And this is back in like, I don't even know when this would be, early 90s maybe? Maybe not even, maybe late 80s, which is huge position. So there was this theme. There's another thing too with the conversation with Soros is that when you're right and you're going to bet on yourself, and then the position starts to play out in your favor, he tended to have, I don't know if there's a system behind this or not, but when he knew he was right and he ended up to be right, he was greedy as a pig. Like when he's on a hot streak, greedy as a pig, and he would go huge on positions. And so the lesson there is like, when you're on a hot streak and you think you're doing good and you're like still betting with small position size, is maybe during those periods reassess that, because it wasn't just Soros that talked about that. There was quite a few that talked about that. Like when you're right and you know it, like go big, right? Go big within your risk to reward model. I would argue still, but yeah, definitely go all in and like maybe close out a bunch of positions so that you can put more allocation here, whatever it's got to be. But yes, the theme is that when you're right and you know it, be greedy as a pig when things are going your way. Okay, next, and how I want to wrap this up is kind of talk about some of my liquidation stories. I'm far from what I would consider a success. I think I'm okay at trading. And I had a couple big like spills. 2017, after all that, like after we hit the bear market in 2018, is I didn't sell out of any of my positions, and I like sold late on a lot of stuff, and I did not sell the exact top with like all my stack like so many heroes did on social media. And so I ended up losing a couple $100,000 just because I waited, I drug my feet, I was being, whatever. I was being complacent. I was like, no, trying to argue that the bull run's still here, kind of like what people are doing right now. And so I lost money then. And then I actually got, there's two other points where we invested some money into like a trading floor, and then they just disappeared with the money. I don't know if I would call that like a liquidation story, but got rug pulled. Gotten rug pulled a lot, just with coin projects or whatever. Gotten rug pulled a lot over the years. And that's more and more common today than it was back in 2017, which is crazy to me. And then actually did get liquidated on BitMEX trading in 2019. So those struggles and those like journeys, because they were a journey in and of themselves, right, is like, again, they're utterly worthless if you're going to just put them into that black box of shit that you want to ignore and never bring up again. And you got to like make all these stories up and defend it so that nobody knows and you're embarrassed and ashamed or whatever the fuck you got going on. If you put that down there, there's no learning from it, and it is just a 100% loss. But if we can go in there and look at those things and go back in time and look at what were we doing, what was our strategy like, what was our enter and exit plan, what was our trade plan, all of those things, when you start to break it down, you start to see the gaps. And there's big gaps. And there's huge takeaways that I took from that, huge differences that I instituted after that. Like I spent 8 or maybe 10 months after that just trading small, trading ridiculously small, like at a level that I wouldn't be losing sleep. I wouldn't have to wake up in the middle of the night to, check out a position, or like alerts on my trading view were going off or whatever. I didn't even care about these positions. And all I did during that amount of time was rebuild my confidence. So I took almost a year to just rebuild confidence, which was way longer than I needed. I think I was being a bit dramatic there. But the point remains is that, when I had that loss, is the immediate thing I wanted to do was to then fix that. And what's interesting is so I got licked in 2019. It's like there was no real big dumps in 2019. I think there was a couple, but then when 2020 came and a lot of people got licked, I didn't. So on that March COVID dump, I didn't get licked. I know of handfuls of people, and they were in, again, they were trading longer than me. So it's just like, again, what can we take away from the trading experience itself is the most important part, not comparing yourself to others, right? So that's what I wanted to share with you in this video, is that this side of it is, I see, rarely talked about. I mean, sometimes I'll see a post or two, but I don't see videos talking about this and really helping give tools to navigate through this if you're going through it now, or if you went through it in the past. Now we can start to pull that back out of the box and look at it and learn from it so that we don't make those mistakes again. Because I'm telling you what, if you learn nothing from that, then it's a 100% loss. But if you do learn something from it, then now all we're doing is stacking experience, and that's confidence for the future. All right, my friends, that's all I got for you. Comment below if you got something to say. Click the like button. Subscribe, hit the bell notification if you're brand new here and you want more. Be on the lookout. More videos coming soon.